Yesterday's conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines. Most are still asleep, and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media, and I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine, but the carnal mind is foolish. Obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out. Stop it, I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second itch to me just to be this out honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, healthy how? Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out.
Hey, yo, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'm your host with the most news for you today. That's what we got, man. Just some news articles to keep you updated. My name is Joseph Daniel Pena, and this is the 509 Divine Pines podcast. And I would like you guys to go check out my sponsors, Boomer Boost Vitamins. Have you guys been feeling tired, just out of it, your energy out of tune? Now, if I were you, I would be looking for resolutions for that type of problem. I was feeling so out of energy a few years ago, and I looked for different alternatives, and I finally found something that worked. An all organic company using vitamins from fruits and vegetables, nature. Man, they got it right. Honestly, they got a powerful barley seed that is special. It's 4 times as potent as your normal barley. And you know, the barley, man, it's been referenced for thousands of years in all the spiritual texts, is one of the most powerful. Go ahead, check out Boomer Boost Vitamins, boomerboost.com. Use coupon code 509 Divine Pines 10 off. Score yourself 10% off powerful nutrients that will change your mind, body, and soul. Also, go ahead, check out Tweedle Farms for your hemp needs, your CBD needs, anything that keeps you right on that CBD flight. Yeah, they got it, man. They got terpenes, they got different flavors of cannabinoids, they got special strains, man, oils, tinctures, vapes, just all types of things. Go ahead, check out TweedleFarms.com. Use coupon code 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order. And also, go ahead, check out eagle-research.com for a very powerful new technology, a hydrogen healing machine. And this is something that is used across in different countries, China, Japan, I'm guessing, just to guess, Saudi Arabia, these really rich, technologically advanced places, Korea, they got them in their mall. This is an average product to them. They can just get it in their mall like we get massages at the mall. So if you guys want to experience some higher level technology on what the world is coming to and what you can do for your body through something as simple as water, yeah, visit eagle-research.com and use coupon code 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order. All right, guys, we are going to get into it today. All right, look, cannabis, that's the thing that I love, and cannabis is the thing that's going to make this country rock, man. I'll tell you, with all the money that's been pouring in from cannabis over the last 10 years, with this legalization, the recreational markets, man. Oh, the money is coming. It's gonna be 100 billion within 10 years, probably a 250 billion. I mean, probably a trillion within 10 years. And hey, that's just me guessing. Like worldwide, over $1 trillion revenue. Definitely. That's easy. I can see it. And you know what? Here's the article for you. Look, so right now, the House has approved cannabis legalization. Here's a clip from Senator Chuck Schumer. I'm gonna go ahead and play this for you guys.
Mr. President, Majority Leader. Mr. President, before the Senate finishes this evening, there's one more important piece of legislation we're passing today, which I want to tout. The Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act. I got to give great credit to Senators Feinstein, Senator Grassley, and Senator Schatz. They've championed this legislation and worked hard to see that it's gotten the support of all the senators. And it would eliminate the red tape that hinders cannabis research, opening the door for new innovative treatments derived from cannabis. Now, if you're one of the millions of Americans who deals with conditions like Parkinson's or epilepsy or post-traumatic stress or any number of other conditions, cannabis might hold promising new options for managing these diseases. But we need to do the research first. And the federal government sadly has been woefully behind the times on this front. This bill will help fix that. And equally important, I hope after passing this bill, the Senate can make progress on other cannabis legislation too. I'm still holding productive talks with Democratic and Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate on moving additional bipartisan cannabis legislation in the lame duck. And we're going to try very, very hard to get it done. It's not easy, but we're making good progress. So I thank my colleagues for the excellent work on this bill and hope it portends more good cannabis legislation to come. On the second matter, Mr. President, on roll call 3455.
You guys heard it there. You guys seen it. That's from our government. Yo, this isn't happening. This is happening right here in America, man. I feel proud. I'm sparking up a joint for that one. All right, man. Look, for a long time, people have been scared, man. I know my older fam and my older friends, they're like a little bit not as comfortable out in public, man. And me, I'm that type of guy that I think this should be public everywhere. This should be actually in our schools. I know for a fact that if CBD, which isn't this like flower really, this is THC, CBD used medically, recreationally, in schools would help our kids grow through gym, help them have less anxiety in class, have them be performing at a higher mental rate, less ailments, less sickness, less mental disorders, less psychological disorders. Literally, I mean, if we want to get into the spirituality, I would bet that there would be more people doing the right thing and the good thing in school. And I'm sure that once this gets passed within about 10 years, we're going to start seeing a push to get weed education inside of schools. This is going to be a very powerful time in history if this gets fully legalized, guys. So there is something very powerful in the works. This isn't just fluffy news for you guys. All right, man. This is real deal stuff. Things are happening. We know Germany legalized it, and America is about to follow. All right, guys. Next up, the chef cooking up food as medicine. Meet the chef of Project Angel Food, which provides 2,500 meals a day to Los Angeles residents with serious illnesses. John Gordon cooks for more than 2,500 people a day at Project Angel Food, nonprofit organization that batches Mongolian beef, sweet and sour tofu, the turkey chili verde that leaves the Gordon's kitchens are especially tailored for dinner's nutritional needs. It's about food as medicine, man. Everything can be medicine. That's what I try to tell you guys. That's one of the key things, what my supplements, vitamins, it's just food processed in a different way, but it's still organic and it's still formulated to go ahead and help your body achieve some health benefits. Gordon says, so whatever category that client fits comfortably in, whether you have diabetes, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, or being treated for cancer, they get tailored a meal to accommodate whatever they're dealing with. Hey, this is a fascinating project. In the latest episode of Gastropod, co-host Cynthia Graber and Nicola Twiley speaks to folks at Food is Medicine Coalition and other experts advocating for food is medicine, and read on for Gordon's perspective on the logistics required to bring prescription dinners to hundreds of people daily. I find it exciting. It's puzzling. It's a challenge each day to say, okay, how do I make this happen? When I started, our clients were all HIV and AIDS patients. We were working on one hot meal per day. Back then, the emphasis was get their weight back up, keep the weight back on them, and make sure they had something to eat. Hey, blessings to this dude. This guy's like a hero. Wow. And the next question says, when the organization started getting involved in medically tailored meals, in the past 5 years or so, we've gravitated towards food as medicine, meaning the recipes have changed. It went from being like put on weight, eat, to if you're diabetic, then eat these things you should. And okay, then these are the things you should not have. These are some of the things that are probably better for you. Next question. What's the process of creating one of the recipes on your end? Gordon says he comes up with a recipe and shoots it to his nutritionist. She'll go through and make the necessary adjustments that's suitable for the client's categories. Then we'll do the acid test in the kitchen. We'll cook them all, line them up, and taste them. All our chefs will walk down the line, taste testing. Everybody will make notes, mark down the pros and cons. Wow. That's how you do it, man. I doubt your cooks at McDonald's are doing that with your food. I bet they don't. Never mind. Next question. What do you have to make a recipe fit for all the nutritional categories? When you look at turkey chili, it looks all the same, but each of those 5 different batches has something slightly different about it. If we send the recipe up, then they say you can't use corn when we're searching for something acceptable substitute that would not compromise the taste. If we can't find anything that won't compromise the taste, then we'll try it with another corn or we'll gauge. So it's just about trying different things. See, that's one of the things that I've been doing over the last few years. I've really been using all these different ingredients. I tried veganism for a minute, actually, guys. I did try vegetarianism. I, now just am eating proteins and fruits, vegetables, everything. I tried non-GMO, like and organics. Tried GMOs. I've tried military foods. So I've tried a little bit of everything, and I'll definitely say that using substitutes, as long as they're organic, natural, earth-made substitutes, that's fine. Using them is completely fine. It definitely does what the body requires. As far as nutritional aspect intake. So next question, do you have tricks that you've developed to add back in flavoring things? With some recipes, if it's really losing flavor, I might ask if it's okay we use a little bit more of this and that. So, just play with it a little bit. And so this is cool. I'm a big proponent in eating at your own house and cooking your own food. Don't go out to eat. There's no need for that. You don't know what they're putting in it. You don't even know if they taste test it, if they care, if it's rotten, if it's moldy. You do not know the ingredients. We see the ingredients, they're filled with plastics, they're filled with phosphates, they're filled with all these poisons, anyways. And that's the secondary, besides the actual hygienic part. You don't even know if these cooks are like washing their hands or sneezing on the food or if they clean proper. You know, like yeah, just gotta eat. Eat at a nice, trustworthy location that like, let's say you have a family diner that you and your family's been running and it's like been that way for a long time and you guys keep it A1 sharp up to date, a local, hot spot or something like a taco shop where everybody does it right. Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a little bit different. Eat at your house though, that's like you can trust everything. Eating at a fast food, Taco Bell, McDonald's, fuck no, man. Hey man, next up, neoplant bioengineer houseplants are being used as in air purifiers. Sorry, I was reading two different things. Neoplants, a French startup that designs genetically modified houseplants so that they can absorb air pollutants. See, now I'll go ahead and say I'm big and against genetically modified uh organisms, but there is some things that like we can genetically modify that just doesn't really have like a truly negative effect. um if we know that things like succuluses exist, and if they're actually like genetically modifying a super succulus, which would do the same thing as one of those $500 electronic air purifiers, then there might be a good thing. This is definitely pretty fascinating. So, says right here, neoplants target specifically a group of indoor air pollutants that can't be efficiently captured by traditional air purifiers. Most air purifiers focus on particulate matters, but it's hard to tackle volatile organic compounds, VOCs. That's why neoplants focus on two categories of VOCs: formaldehyde and benzene. Toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene. These pollutants come from outdoor pollution, but also from materials that are used in construction, such as paints, coatings, and chemicals. Cooking and smoking can also foster indoor pollution. Our plants can capture the four main components that cause air pollution at home, but it can also turn into something useful that can become plant matter. So, just like I said, it actually does better than air purifiers. Um, So, all of those compounds that you think are disappearing with Febreze, you spray it and it dissolves. Well, that shit's not disappearing. That Febreze ain't disappearing. Those Axe body sprays, that's not disappearing. That's staying stuck in your house. That bleach, yeah, it's not disappearing. Those chemicals are like small little, these things right here, formaldehyde, benzenes, toluene, ethylbenzenes, xylenes. They're like these volatile compounds that are being that stick in your atmosphere in your house, right? Which is why people say like sage and these incense also work, right? And not fully, but they help, right? So incense, shit like that, right? So this is pretty fascinating. It continues on to say plants usually metabolize CO2, but the NEO-P1 has been modified at the DNA level that it produces new enzymes that can also metabolize air pollutants. For instance, it turns formaldehyde into fructose, and it turns BTEX compounds into amino acid that the plant can use to produce proteins later. While genetically modified organisms aren't new, the company says that applying these methods on health plants is new. We have to sequence and annotate the genetic structure of the plant. All right, man. This is pro news. This is very good news. You see, people are trying to do good things with just genetic modification. I look, I'm big against it, right? But I'm also real when I see something that is positive, and I'll go ahead and give it a raise, like tip my hat. This is awesome. This is cool. It says a Neoplast will sell the Neo P1 package with the plant itself, a plant pot with a basket inside designed for maximum air intake and 3 months of microbiome for $180. This is awesome, guys. Okay, go get a Neoplant, or you can go get a new brain implant. Here's an article saying new brain implants read words directly from people's thoughts. Device could permit communication for people with paralysis and others unable to speak. To restore someone's lost ability to speak, to communicate, scientists have used experimental brain implants to turn internal speech into external signals. Scientists have devised ways to read words directly from brains. Brain implants can translate internal speech to external signals, permitting communication from people with paralysis and other diseases that still their ability to talk or type. New results from 2 studies presented November 13th at the annual meeting of Society for Neuroscience provide additional evidence of the extraordinary potential that brain implants have for restoring lost communication, says neuroscientist and neurocritical care physician Leigh Hochberg. Some people who need to help communicating can currently use devices that require small movements such as eye gazing changes, Those tasks aren't possible for everyone, so the new studies target internal speech, which requires a person to do nothing more than think. Our device predicts internal speech directly, allowing the patient to just focus on saying a word inside their head and transform it into text, says Sarah Wendelt, a neuroscientist at Caltech. Internal speech could be much simpler and more intuitive than requiring the patient to spell out words or mouth them. Neurosignals associated with the words are detected by electrodes implanted in the brain. The signals can then be translated into text, which can be made audible by computer programs that generate speech. That approach is really exciting and reinforces the brain of bringing together fundamental neuroscience, neuroengineering, and machine learning approaches for the restoration of communication and mobility, says Hochberg of Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School in Boston and Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. So, and new technology is gonna make people speak and learn and hear, and the mute will not be mute, the deaf will not be deaf, and man, it's also a thing I'm a big proponent of. I think that once we start healing all these things and fixing all these things that are wrong with people, um, through positive ways, like the best we can, we gotta help everyone, no man left behind. All right, continuing on. How exercise protects against neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Hey, you know, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out, guys. And I mean it like really though, because a lot of people talk about how physical activity and working out is one of the key things in a life that you will never um die from, as far as like you're always gonna get better with it. You're gonna succeed. You're gonna achieve good things. Your health, your mind, your body, your soul is all gonna be sharp. And when I say you're not gonna die from it, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can die from exercise. But what I mean though is that, like, typically 99% of the time, you're just gonna get healthier. There's not that like 99% of the time, nothing's gonna go wrong. You know, So here's the article. A special issue of the journal Brain Plasticity explores research on how exercise-induced activation of peripheral systems may improve cognitive function and delay or prevent the onset of neurodegenerative diseases. A growing body of research shows that exercise can enhance brain function and delay or even prevent the onset of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Although the underlying mechanisms still remain unclear, recent research indicates that exercise induced activation of peripheral systems such as muscle, gut, liver, and adipose tissue may affect neuroplasticity. A special tissue of the journal Brain Plasticity presents new research and insights on neuroplasticity and the role of peripheral factors in cognitive health. So neuroplasticity is the way that we grow, the way our neurons in our brain grow and the way that they form and what they get used to. Continuing on, at least a dozen peripheral factors have been identified that affect neurotrophin levels, neurodegenesis, inflammation, synaptic plasticity, and memory function, explained co-guest editor and journal editor-in-chief Henriette Van Prague, PhD, Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine and Brain Institute, Florida Atlantic University. Cathepsin B, or also known as CTSB, a myokin, a brain-derived neurotropic factor, has been found to possess robust neuroprotective effects. In a new study presented in a special tissue, investigators examined whether increased aerobic exercise intensities would increase the amount of CTSB and BDNF circulating in the blood. 16 young healthy subjects were selected as participants and completed the treadmill based aerobic exercise at maximum capacity and then at 40%, 60%, and 80% of capacity. After each bout of exercise, blood samples were taken to measure circulating CTSB and BDNF and CTSB protein, BDNF protein, and mRNA expression were measured in skeletal tissue. Scientists discovered that high intensity exercise elevates circulating CTSB in young adults immediately after exercise, and that skeletal muscle tissue expressed both message and proteins of CTSB and BDNF. In response to a variety of stimuli, skeletal muscle can communicate in a number of ways with the central nervous system, CNS, including the following: by secreting signaling proteins that can bind to receptors in the blood brain barrier and brain cells, with the concomitant induction of downstream signaling by releasing extracellular vesicles such as exosomes that contain signaling factors, by releasing metabolites that enter the brain through solute transporters present on the BBB and brain cells, the blood brain barrier, by secreting enzymes that produce signaling factors in the muscle, in the circulation, and or in the brain, and via direct effects stemming from modulation of muscle metabolism and myokin signaling to other tissues distinct from the brain. Regulated processes include improvement in cerebral blood flow, brain brain metabolic functions, mitochondrial biogenesis, and neurogenesis. I'm gonna need some water. Hold on, pause. Whereas protective signaling reduces oxidative stress, cell senescence, and neuroinflammation. Altogether, the action of muscle brain signaling on these cellular processes improve cognitive functions. So, you guys heard that, and you guys got a nice freaking long little education on this. All right, man. So exercise really goes and shows how it helps our metabolites and our enzymes, um, and our neurons get like the best of you know blood flow, metabolism, mitochondrial biogenesis, neurogenesis, protein quality control, oxidative damage control, cell senescence, neuroinflammation control. So, we're experiencing and seeing that our body regulates and processes working out as a like healer. We get better mood and sleep, we get better appetite, we get better learning and memory, we have less neurodegeneration, we have less psychiatric disease. So, you know, go work out, guys. Go freaking work out and protect yourself, man. Hey, I've been working out at the gym for a year, man. So, like, I'll be real. I've been there for about 14, 15, no, somewhere between 15 months. Uh, I did take a few months break. So, I'll say I've only been there like 12 months, and then yeah, man. Really, it's been amazing. I feel myself like remembering things. I feel myself doing a whole bunch of stuff that I wasn't doing before. Like my mental health is so much better. Um, Sometimes I still stumble on words, but that's because I usually need water. I gotta drink more water. Speaking of water, yeah, let me just drink some water. Next up, guys, we're gonna go ahead and continue on. The U.S.'s alcohol-induced death rate rose sharply in the pandemic's first year. So from 2019 to 2020, the death rate of alcohol-induced deaths climbed 26%. Guys, quit fucking drinking and driving, you fucking. I mean, I need to stop doing that too, but like, I don't really get drunk and drive. I might drink some, but man, fuck no. Like, I don't really like try. I actually try sobering up before if I ever drink like too much. There's a certain limit where I know, and I'm like, I actually hold myself back. I'm like, I'll wait, just chill, drink water. Um, but I do, I know that there's people out there that are drinking bottles and driving. I don't do that. I do not do that. That's horrible. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, guys. That's 26%. Jesus Christ. You know, I don't even want to know what the next few years are. And I know that that's a problem around here in these areas. There's a lot of drinking and driving. There's a lot of beer and a lot of wine out here. There's a lot of liquor because it's like, I live in the Yakima Valley. This is a hop valley. We grow a lot of hops. Like 70% of the world's hops come from this location. Or 70% of the nations. I think it's the world. Literally, dude, so much hops comes from this location. So much beer. People are just drinking all the time. It's ridiculous. New molecule destroys Alzheimer's. Found in green tea, the University of California, Los Angeles found a molecule present in green tea to uncover more molecules that may break up protein tangles in the brain, which are known to cause Alzheimer's disease and other disorders. Tau fibers, which are lengthy, multi-layered filaments that create tangles and attack neurons, are known to be broken up by green tea molecule EGCG. UCLA biochemists detail how EGCG breaks tau fibers layer by layer in a paper that was recently published in the journal Nature Communications. They also describe how they found other compounds that are likely to function in the same manner and might be better potential candidates for drugs than EGCG, which has difficulty penetrating the brain. The discovery offers up new possibilities for treating Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases by developing drugs that target the structure of tau fibers and other amyloid fibrils. Thousands of J-shaped layers of tau molecules joined together form the type of amyloid fibrils known as tangles, which were originally identified in the post-mortem brain of a dementia patient by Alois Alzheimer a century ago. As this fiber grows and spreads throughout the brain, they kill neurons and cause brain atrophy. Many researchers believe that the removal or destruction of the tau fibers can slow the progression of dementia. If we could break up these fibers, we may be able to stop the death of neurons. Industry has generally failed at doing so because they mainly use large antibodies that have difficulty getting into the brain. For a couple decades, scientists have known there's a molecule in green tea called EGCG that can break up amyloid fibers, and that's where our work departs from the rest. EGCG has been studied extensively, but has never worked as a drug for Alzheimer's because its ability to dismantle tau fibers works best in water and doesn't enter cells or the brain easily. As soon as EGCG enters the bloodstream, it binds to many proteins besides tau fibers, weakening its efficiency. To investigate the mechanisms through which EGCG breaks up tau fibers, the researchers extracted tau tangles from the brains of people who died from Alzheimer's and incubated them for varying amounts with EGCG. Within 3 hours, half of the fibers were gone, and those that remained were partially degraded. After 24 hours, all the fibers have disappeared. Fibrils in the middle stages of EGCG induced degradation were flash frozen, and images of these frozen samples showed how EGCG snapped fibrils into apparently harmless pieces. The EGCG molecules bind to each layer of fibers, but the molecules want to be closer together. As they move, the fiber snaps. Kevin Murray, who is also a UCLA doctoral student at the time and now neurology department at Brown University, student identified specific locations called pharmacophores at the tau fiber in which EGCG molecules are attracted. Then he ran computer simulations on a library of 60,000 brain and nervous system friendly small molecules with the potential to bind to the same sites. He found several hundred molecules that were 25 atoms or less in size, all with the potential to bind even better with the tau fiber pharmacophores. Experiments with the top candidate molecules identified that the computational screening identified about half a dozen that broke up the tau fibers. Using the supercomputing resources available at UCLA, we were able to screen vast libraries of drugs virtually before any wet laboratory experiments were required. A few of these compounds, most notably molecules CNS and CNS 17, CNS 11 and CNS 17, also stop the fibers from spreading from cell to cell. The authors think that these molecules are candidates for drugs that can develop a treat Alzheimer's disease. For cancer, many metabolic diseases known as a structure of disease-causing proteins has led to effective drugs that halt the disease-causing action. But it's only recently that scientists learned that the structure of tau tangles. We've now identified small molecules that break up these fibers. The bottom line is we put Alzheimer's disease and amyloid disease and generally on the same basis as cancer, namely that structure can be used to find drugs. Look, that is awesome. Look, they are using nature green tea. What I've been saying this whole podcast. Nature, nature, nature. Go back to eating organic, eating right, using healthy foods, and you'll be healed. Right there, it says green tea treats Alzheimer's. Like, kind of in this weird way, not specifically. Don't go drink a fucking. You don't get no green tea for your grandpa and just feed it down. No, like it's gonna take some time, but they're using this process to actually now realize that nature itself has all the answers we need. We just have to look. But we don't really want to look at this news right here specifically. You see, BBC and the UK is showing that UK deaths outnumber births for the first time in 40 years. This is sad, guys. Look at this. Look at this chart right here. So, deaths abroad world wars are not registered. So, but we see coming out here to 2020, and deaths are right there, right at birth. Oh my God. All right, so in the 1900s, it was sitting at about zero point 0.7 million reported births per year. And, oh, no, my bad. 0.7 million deaths per year and 1.1 million births per year. So there was 400,000 more people per year being born. In the 1920s, there was only 100,000 more people being born per year. Actually, in the 1980s, um, there's another. You know what I see, guys? The 1920s, the start of World War One, bam, huge population decrease. World War Two, boom, bam, big population decrease. And then we got this, like the 1950s. Um, is this the Cold War? Is it Vietnam, Cold War, Korea-ish? We're starting to enter those areas. A little dip down. The 1970s, is it still Vietnam or is this now into Desert Storm? I think it's Desert Stormish. 2000 Iraq. So every dip is when America goes to war or when like wars start happening. And right here 2020, guys, be prepared. War is happening. We are in World War 3 and yeah, oh shit. Anyways, continuing on. Science Daily. Scientists discover material that can be made like a plastic but conducts like metal. Breakthrough that could point way to a new class of materials for electronic devices. This is interesting, man. So, I mean, plastic is like one thing that's just speculatively bullshit. But if they're gonna go ahead and like use plastic, all right. So, like plastic, I think this has been used for a long ass time. I think what we know about plastic, definitely not what really is. Because when they talk about rubber, people are like, "Oh no, rubber's new," but rubber is old as fuck. I think a lot of these materials that we're using are just kind of like recreations, we're modifying it and making newer like creations. So seeing that there can be a plastic that conducts like metal, which is that's cool, man. Um, because now we're entering that newer stage of physics and evolution in our technology and understanding of reality, across the whole board. No matter where we go, no matter what we do, we're evolving, and this is another evolution. So I just wanted to go ahead and just brush up on it real quick. Scientists with the University of Chicago have discovered a way to create a material that can be made like a plastic but conducts electricity more like a metal. Yeah, it says what it says. Shows how to make a. All right. It says the research shows how to make a kind of material in which the molecular fragments are jumbled and disordered, but can still conduct electricity extremely well. This goes against all rules we know about for conductivity to a scientist. It's kind of seeing a driving car on water and still going 7 miles per hour, but the finding can also be extraordinarily useful. If you want to invent something revolutionary, the process often first starts with discovering a completely new material. Yes. If you want to invent something revolutionary, the process often first starts with discovering a completely new path, new energy, new material, new idea. It starts with you. In principle, this opens up the design for a whole new class of materials that conduct electricity, are easy to shape, and are very robust in everyday conditions. Essentially, it suggests new possibilities for an extremely important technological group of materials. Continuing on. Conducting materials are absolutely essential if you're making any kind of electronic device, whether it be an iPhone, a solar panel, or television. By far, the oldest and largest group of conductors is the metals copper, gold, and aluminum. Then, about 50 years ago, scientists were able to create conductors made of organic materials using a chemical treatment known as doping, which sprinkles indifferent atoms and electrons throughout the material. This advantageous because these materials are more flexible and easier to process than traditional metals. But the trouble is they aren't very stable, and then they could lose their conductivity if exposed to moisture or the temperature gets too high. Hey, so this is cool. Um, It says, then G began experimenting with some materials discovered years ago but largely ignored. He strung nickel atoms like pearls into a string of molecular beads made of carbon and sulfur and began testing. To the scientists' astonishment, the material easily and strongly conducted electricity. It was very stable. We heated it, chilled it, exposed it to air and humidity, it even dropped acid in the base, and nothing happened. But to the scientists, the most striking thing was the molecular structure of material was disordered from a fundamental picture that should not be able to be a metal. There isn't a solid theory to be able to explain this. So, w- you know what? That just goes to show what we have known as science ain't so like it's not so set in stone. Um, don't always trust the old science saying that things can't be. Nothing's impossible. Things can be. All right. You know what I mean? Like that's there's uh there's infinite possibilities for things. And when we like stick to a boxed idea that it has to be like this, it, it, you you kill your future. You need to be open minded to all these different sorts of realities. And hey, continuing on. Zapping tiny metal drops with sound creates wires for soft electronics. So this is something along the same the physics evolution, a new way of making stretchy wiring using ultrasound and microscopic spheres of liquid metal. Zapping liquid metal droplets with ultrasound offers a new way to make wiring for stretchy bending electronics. The researchers began by drawing on sheets of stretchy plastic with lines of microscopic droplets made of an alloy of gallium and indium. The metal alloy is liquid at temperatures above 16 degrees Celsius. Though the liquid metal is electrically conductive, the droplets quickly oxidize. That process covers each of them with a thin insulating layer. The layers carry static charges that push the drops apart, making them useless for connecting the LEDs, microchips, and other component in electronic circuitry. By hitting the microspheres with high-frequency sound waves, the researchers caused the microscopic balls to shred even smaller, nanoscopic balls of liquid metal. The tiny spheres bridge the gaps between the larger one, and that close contact allows electrons to tunnel through the oxide layers so the droplets can carry electricity. When the plastic that the drops are printed on is stretched or bent, the large balls of metal can deform, while the smaller ones act like rigid particles that shift around to maintain contact. The researchers demonstrated their conductors by connecting electronics into a stretchy pattern of LED displaying the initials of the dynamic material design laboratory where the work was done. The team also built a sensor with uh sorry, I was built a sensor with the conductors that can monitor blood through a person's skin. So the team also built a sensor with conductors that can monitor blood through a person's skin. So that's pretty cool. You don't even have to uh r- have blood tests anymore. I'm guessing they can check your blood through your skin. It's awesome. Hey, but this ain't awesome. Next up, we're gonna keep it rolling, guys. The World Economic Forum and UN trust the science clip. All right, man. Here, just so you guys know, not to trust Google.
Google, for example, if you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
Huh. Interesting. Not. Yeah. Don't trust these guys. Don't trust Google. And here's another video for you guys. Here's video time. Yes.
There's no longer any doubt that humans are heating up the oceans, land, and sea by burning fossil fuels.
The world has to overcome not only the damage done to our economies and our societies by COVID-19, it also has to confront the repercussions.
سرعة التغيير القادمة أكبر بكثير مما نتوقع.
I see a future where the internet is available for free for everyone, and that means the location of power is going to shift. Decentralization of power structures everywhere may be the beginning of that shift in finance, in political power.
We have to uphold our responsibility, which we have towards the next generation.
So, this is an advertisement by the World Government Summit. And, even though they say that the New World Order is a conspiracy theory, it's all up in your face, guys. They're just, lying to you, just like they do at McDonald's. I am not them. They are not you. These dudes are above with their fucking rich elite, first class flights. That's who's all up in here. These are the rich elite, dude, controlling you. All right. Next up, look, now we're gonna get into some serious shit. FBI conducts no-knock warrant of homeowner of a website devoted to Area 51. Las Vegas-based KLS TV's George Knapp revealed FBI agents raided the home of an owner of a popular UFO website dedicated to all things Area 51. Right here. This is interesting. George Arnu, owner of DreamlandResort.com, was targeted with a no-knock warrant. They took his computers, files, phones, photos, held his girlfriend at gunpoint. Jesus Christ. So, I don't even know why. The warrants were served 1 week ago. Arnu noted at his site that he does not know the reason for the raid. And, he's right here. I believe he's right here on the left. On the right, we got Jeremy Corbell. So, interesting. There was also a raid 17 years ago of Arnu's UFO researcher friend, Chuck Clark. Very interesting. So Arnu was legally tracking everything from radio to statistics to he had pictures. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely on the tail of what's really happening at Area 51. Very interesting, guys. So, when you are on target, they fuck with you. That's probably why I'm lower than the algorithm. These bitches. All right, guys, continuing on. Look, this right here. 17 years ago, Chuck Clark, a military watchdog, showed journalists where the government had buried sensors on public land. Clark used his own sensors and detectors to find the government sensors. Clark admitted that he was well known to security force which guards the base. He routinely shadowed by the so-called camo dudes. He was routinely shadowed by them and has been picked up by the array of cameras and other sensors positioned all around the edge of the sprawling test facility. Look, so he found one of their sensors right here. It's a picture. That's hilarious. So these guys are really deep in it, man. I'll probably have to go ahead and get into a deeper story. Or we could just, run it right here. Clark has spent years exploring the outer edges of the secret base, shooting photos of the facility from faraway vantage points. And we're going to go ahead and listen to what Arnu's friend had to say back in the day.
In the tiny town of Rachel, near the mysterious Area 51 military base. It's an exclusive story you will only see here.
We've learned this action was initiated by the Joint Terrorism Task Force. The search warrant remains sealed, and the FBI won't say what was seized from the home of Rachel resident Chuck Clark. We believe the action was taken because Chuck Clark escorted the I-team on a tour of the roads surrounding the base. During the visit, he showed us the location of military sensors hidden on public land. Here's our story.
I found 31 or 32 of them so far.
Retired astronomer and desert rat Chuck Clark has a new hobby. He's prowled the hills and deserts of Lincoln County for several years now, has photographed exotic aircraft in the skies, and keeps an eye on the top secret base known as Area 51. He's even written a book about the place. Over the past few months, he's discovered the military has been installing secret sensors on public land surrounding the base. Using a frequency counter, he can tell when his vehicle has tripped the sensor. When that happens, he looks for the hard-to-spot wire atop the device.
This is our sensor right here.
Then he digs them up, takes pictures, and puts them back.
There's your transmitter right there. And we'll come around here. And right here will be the time delay unit. And you'll see it's clearly marked U.S. government property.
Clark isn't a terrorist or spy, but is angered that hikers, four-wheelers, or photographers, anyone who uses the backcountry, is being monitored by the military on public land, miles from the boundary of the base, a boundary which is clearly marked by ominous signs.
It's a little overkill, in my opinion. They have about a 25-mile buffer zone out here, and it's all terrain like this. It gets rougher as you go. Why they have to put stuff outside the line really escapes me.
During the I-Team's visit last week, 2 sensors were located, and base security wrote down the plate numbers of our vehicles. We returned 5 days ago and drove to the rear entrance of Area 51. 3 days after our visit, FBI agents, Air Force Intelligence, and the Joint Terrorism Task Force raided Clark's home in Rachel, seized photos, records, and his computer. Is it legal for anyone to touch military sensors hidden on public land? The government doesn't think so, although Clark hasn't been charged with anything. Is the military trying to silence this outback gadfly?
They're sort of paranoid about this location, and I don't see why.
We asked the BLM if it's legal for the military to put sensing devices out on public land, but a spokesman couldn't answer our question. Law enforcement sources say that by handling the sensors, the devices become disabled, so it amounts to destruction of government property. As we mentioned, Clark has not been charged. He was out of the state when the warrant was served. Our investigation of the issues involved will continue, and we should emphasize the involvement of the Terrorism Task Force does not mean that terrorism in a classic sense is involved. It's just that these kinds of matters fall under the task force purview.
Yeah, a bigger and bigger umbrella is becoming.
Wow. You heard that, the BLM. If we mention that these days, this is a whole nother meaning, man. So these guys are on some real deal. Look, I bet I could go ahead and like really get into what Arnu was discovering. But if you've seen what this dude was onto, he was fucking with the government 17 years ago. I'm sure Arnu was definitely doing a bit more. You know, he's a little bit pissed that his friend got raided 17 years ago. So he's all right. Let's fucking really stick it to him. Yo, but they held his girlfriend at gunpoint. I can't fucking believe that, bro. Man, look at so continuing on. You know, yeah, continuing on. We're gonna just move forward. Conspiracy author David Icke banned from EU, labeled a terrorist. He was set to speak at Amsterdam this last weekend. But now will reportedly be prevented from entering any country in the European Union for a period of 2 years. For 24 months, he cannot enter 21 countries. Received an email from my dad, David Icke, has been banned from entering the EU for 2 years. They claim he is a level 3 terrorist. Oh my God. The old man is banned from entering the Netherlands. 0 convictions, 0 crimes committed, banned by the government. Wow. Icke has been set to feature an event called Together for the Netherlands, but far left activist groups complained to the government and demanded that he was barred from entering the country. The municipality of Amsterdam also asked the Dutch IND, Immigration and Naturalization Service, to investigate whether Icke can be refused entry to the country. These guys are salty fucking lizards. can we get David Icke just banned from here? Like, we don't like just he boils our blood. He just ticks us off, guys. Oh my god. Jeez, dude, how childish do people have to be? The municipality complained that Ike made anti-Semitic statements in the past that are unacceptable and deeply hurtful. Although it didn't cite any specific examples, the same authority even asked if Ike had been allowed into the country. His speech at the event be closely monitored by the public prosecutor to assess whether criminal statements are being made. It remains to be seen what justification Dutch authorities actually used to ban Ike from speaking the country and why the ban also reportedly applies across the entire European Union. Ike was previously deplatformed by multiple big tech companies for opposing lockdown and vaccine mandates. Well, I mean, it goes beyond that. This guy's just talking about the great evolution, the new shift in consciousness, and how these politicians, these dirty politicians, are lizard people. I mean, he talks about it a lot, man. That David Icke is a real one. Salute to him. Prayers to his family. And now this guy over here, though, in America is making some freaking noise. Am I right? Alex Jones. Sandy Hook families asked judge to make out Alex Jones penalty. They already awarded families $965 million in damages. Sorry, I didn't get to the billion yet. But now they asked that, or the judge, well, it says right here, Sandy Hook family said a Connecticut judge should impose the highest possible punitive damages, suggesting one calculation that it could be as high as 2.75 trillion. Dude, all I think of is what is it? Goldmember, Austin Powers, and Dr. Evil. $1 trillion. $1 gazillion. $1 jillion. Dude, I mean, like, this is ridiculous, dude. This is one man, Alex Jones. And he didn't even didn't punch anybody, shoot anybody. This guy didn't kill anybody. And he's being sued for 2.75 trillion. I just think there's a limit and a line that, like, for the way we should respect people, and if they don't actually like sin, I mean, there's Kathy Griffin, who had a picture of Trump beheaded on her Twitter with blood, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Trump's head," and it was like, that's calling for the execution of Trump. And where's her lawsuit? But it just reminds me, Andrew Collins is having trouble in Turkey. No, I mean, this is not the only problem. Alex Jones, David Icke, this is not the only problem. Those are the political problems. Now, these are the spiritual problems right here. See, Andrew Collins is banned from Turkey. Literally. Collins says that his book, From the Ashes of Angels, was banned from Turkey, and that he has been kicked out of Göbekli Tepe because of his controversial views about the site. No, not that it's some Nephilim Denisovan afterlife computer. At first, he said it was because he refuses to accept the Turkish line that Göbekli Temple is a temple of idols that Abraham destroyed in the Quran, a claim that some Islamists in Turkey have been promoting with the help of the Turkish government. All right, so right here, we're about to listen a little bit.
This is Andrew Collins here. I thought I would put together a little bit and talk to you about what's been going on in my life over the last week. Two main things. Firstly, the banning and seizure of my book From the Ashes of Angels in Turkey, which has created a situation that now probably means that I won't be going back to that country anytime soon. And secondly, the fact that I felt that because of that incident going on out there right now, I should reveal what happened when myself and a multinational tour party went to Göbekli Tepe last year and were very badly mistreated by the site manager and lead archaeologist, Dr. Lee Clare. His security people just harassed, followed, shadowed us. He screamed at us and basically told me twice to leave and that we don't want your lies and pseudoscience here. And it was a bad situation that seemed to just get worse, as we also found that the military police had been informed of my presence and that our tour guides had to intervene to make sure that I was not arrested. And if I had been arrested, I would have spent the minimum of 3 days in jail. And even if I'd have come out at that time, it would have cost me a lot of money and I'd had to have been lawyered up. But anyway, all of this I've put out over Facebook and other social media this week. And I just felt inside that all of this is going to get to the ears of the people at Göbekli Tepe. In particular, Dr. Lee Clare and his colleagues at the German Archaeological Institute and anybody else that would be connected with this. Well, it now looks like that's happened. And I want to just read you through a comment on something that's come from a third party. It's actually would appear to be a tour company that works with Göbekli Tepe and obviously knows the main people there, and they've obviously consulted them about what I've said. And I'd like to just go through this and put the record straight, because there's some untruths here which I think you ought to know about. Now, this was brought to my attention by somebody out there by the name of Rob Minus. Thank you, Rob, for this. And I'll just go through it and we'll see what's here. It says, I cannot comment on the issue with regards to Andrew Collins' book. That's the banning of From the Ashes of Angels, which obviously was done by the Turkish government after an investigation. They found that it was seen to be propaganda for the Kurdish cause, the PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, basically because it gave accounts of Kurdish culture, Kurdish religions, particularly those of the Yazidi, the Yarasan, the Alevi, these fringe religions, which go back many thousands of years, in my opinion, and are found even to this day in parts of southeast and eastern Turkey. But anyway, that's that. Now, the other things, it says here, it says, but I should make some comment about the other things he brought up in this post. In other words, the one that I put out over Facebook initially. Firstly, I don't recall seeing any of his books on sale in Turkish museum bookshops, and I've been to quite a few. Well, that's absolute crap, to be honest. My colleague, Brian Forrester, was out in Turkey last week, and he wrote to me and he said, I've seen your book everywhere. This was an unsolicited statement, and it is. If you go into many of the museum bookshops in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods in its Turkish language edition is there. And I think what they're saying, these people, is that they didn't see it at Göbekli Tepe. And it's not, because it was there and it was selling very well indeed, but it was taken out. With the only book allowed to be sold there is the late, great Professor Klaus Schmidt's book on Göbekli Tepe. That's the only one that's allowed to have every space now at Göbekli Tepe, nothing else, no other book. And it says here, Andrew Collins was on a list of unwelcome visitors, something we've been aware of for a couple of years, not because of what he writes, but because of his behaviour at sites when conducting his tours. This issue is one of guiding. This is interesting because when we were at Göbekli Tepe last year and we were thrown out, it became apparent that I was on some kind of blacklist of archaeological sites. Now, we tried to inquire when I came back through my local MP and the Foreign Office to find out what this list was, why it was in place, and how long it would be, how long it would last. Didn't get anything. And here it's making reference to that again. And it says it's because of my guiding. Now, guiding is essentially when you take a tour group to a site and you're standing around and people are looking towards you to tell them what's going on. So you tell them, right, this is Göbekli Tepe, it was constructed around 9600 BC, etc., right? And they're objecting to my guiding. Well, firstly, I haven't had any objections anywhere at all in any part of Turkey at any site. So I don't know why they're actually saying this now. However, when I was at Göbekli Tepe last year and we were thrown out, just before it all kicked off, clearly I was talking to people. I was talking to members of our group, and my voice can get louder and louder, of course. And other people would stop and listen to what I had to say, which they obviously were interested in. And I think that somebody's got pissed off with that. And I think it relates to Göbekli Tepe, nowhere else, because I've never had any other problems. There are strict rules about the use of licensed guides. Well, indeed, there are. Any tour of Turkey has to have at least one Turkish tour guide, which is what happens with every one of our tours. This is partly about the integrity of information presented at historical sites, but mostly to protect the jobs of official licensed guides who have to go through a very difficult series of courses to become accredited. Andrew Collins clearly guides his own tours. People ask me, I'm out there as host, special guest. That's what they want. They want you to tell you about places like Göbekli Tepe, and I know a thing or two about Göbekli Tepe. In fact, probably far more than most of the guides, but that's not the point. Guides do come with us. They do their part, but quite clearly they are aware that somebody who's written a book on Göbekli Tepe, like myself, is probably going to know a lot more about it, ultimately. So that's just silly, really. There wouldn't be an issue if he had been more discreet. Now, that's a very interesting statement. He had been more discreet. In other words, this relates to a specific incident. And again, this is clearly related to Göbekli Tepe. Somebody was pissed off because I was telling people about the site. And I think we know who that probably was. His content may well be described as pseudoscience. Say that term. That was the exact term used by Dr. Leclerc. But given the plethora of alternative ideas from dozens of different authors, this would hardly be grounds for exclusion. Well, obviously, you know, I mean, I'm not an academic. My background is journalism. I can write what I like. I go where the evidence takes me. And that evidence leads to books. Books like Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods, which has been a bestseller around the world, including Turkey. Andrew Collins grossly exaggerates the harsh religious outlook, and when he talks about government suppression for reasons of religious dogma, of the idea that Göbekli Tepe is the world's first temple, he's simply making it up. Sorry? I think this is a reference to the fact that in the post that I put out on Facebook, which I'll link to this, I said that after we came back from Turkey and from this incident at Göbekli Tepe, I was contacted by another Turkish tour guide, not one from our group, one that was doing his own thing at the site, oversaw everything that happened, contacted me and apologized on behalf of the Turkish people that, you know, this is nothing to do with us, you know. And he said that what is going on at Göbekli Tepe is something that's endemic, that's going on in the country as a whole at the moment, particularly with respect to how Göbekli Tepe is being viewed by the news media as this first temple in the world. Now, this was a term which I think this is going to say actually here, that Klaus Schmidt first used. He said this is the first temple in the world, and it was adopted within the news media and it's certainly been mentioned in books, and I've probably mentioned this myself out and about. Who wouldn't? But actually, it's not a temple ultimately. If you want it, it's a cult building or a series of cult buildings that were used by shamans to interact with the sky world, the other world, the invisible realms that were seen to be where the supernatural creatures were that they had to deal with to overcome problems like perhaps impending cataclysms associated with comet strikes and whatever. In other words, they would have to deal with these supernatural forces to ensure that the world continued with its stability. So, I haven't said this, and all I've done is mention the fact that this guide said to me that there were certain people within academia in Turkey that did not like this, and that for their own reasons, which could be of a religious nature, they want to try and divert attention of the spirituality at Göbekli Tepe by making it a domestic site, and that there was even going to be promotion of this. And indeed, that's exactly what happened, because a documentary was made in Turkey, in Turkish language, that said that Göbekli Tepe was the dwelling, the house of the idols in the story of Terah, Terah being Abraham's father. It's a story in the Bible, in the Quran, it's also in other apocryphal literature. And basically, it's that Abraham's father was a idolater, if that's the right word, and that he had all these idols in his house. Abraham didn't like this, so he decided he'd smash them all down. He smashed them all, except for the biggest one, the largest monolith, and then told people, look what your God's done. The large monolith here obviously came alive and smashed all the other ones. Clearly, he's not like our God that wouldn't do that. And this broke this paganism, and I would think allowed the conversion of Abraham's family and others around. That's the essence of that story. Well, this Turkish TV documentary said that Göbekli Tepe was the house of the idols in the story of Abraham's father. So, that's a fact. I mean, you can watch the video. I mean, I'll try and put the link out for that. So this is not me, and I don't think it's got anything directly to do with what happened to me and our tour group at Göbekli Tepe. I think that was much more connected with Dr. Lee Clare and his views and opinions on me and what I write. And, of course, the way seemingly I guided tours around there. In other words, I talked to people. Lastly, Turkish academia does not present Göbekli Tepe as the house of the idols belonging to Terah, the father of Abraham, the story told in the Bible and Quran. Well, we've already covered this. This is a fringe, non-academic view, very much in the same vein as Andrew Collins's own views on early man generally and of Göbekli Tepe in particular. Okay, so we've covered this, but I think what they're trying to say here is that I don't keep to the straight and narrow as far as what Göbekli Tepe is. In other words, the archaeologists of the German Archaeological Institute, Turkish ones, try and just keep to the facts as far as what is discovered without speculating very much at all. I speculate a lot based on what we know about Göbekli Tepe, what others have said about Göbekli Tepe, and how it might relate to greater pictures like that of mythology, legends, folklore, and the connection with indigenous religions like the Yazidi, the Arazan, and the Alevi, which are all in the region of where Göbekli Tepe is. And of course, obviously, its relationship to the beliefs and practices of the neighbouring Armenians, for instance, as well. And this is what I put in books like Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods, and other books like Cygnus Key, and the most recent book, Denisovan Origins, co-authored with my colleague Greg Little. So that's essentially it. So that's what they're trying to say was the reason why myself and the tour group was thrown out of Göbekli Tepe last year and essentially told not to return. And quite clearly, I won't be going back to Turkey anytime within the next few years, unless I got some kind of written rite of passage allowing me to go into the country. But let's just go back to basics for a second. This is the book that started it all off. From the Ashes of Angels. I wrote this in 1995. It was published in 1996 for the first time by Penguin. And it was being written at exactly the same time that the first spades went into the ground at Göbekli Tepe. So I had no idea of the fact that Göbekli Tepe existed when I wrote this, even though it's talking about the same pre-pottery Neolithic culture and saying that somewhere in southeast Turkey and the Near East as a whole was essentially the essence of a some kind of shamanic group that kick-started civilization and the Neolithic revolution in this area. And then eventually we find in this area Göbekli Tepe. Now, this book was published in 2002 in Turkey by Avesta Publications. And that was a long time ago, I know, but the work that I did on that book and the way that it was received in Turkey allowed me in 2004 to be invited by the mayor of Diyarbakir, the administrative centre of Eastern Turkey, to a huge cultural festival. And I met the mayor and he encouraged me in my work and said, please write another book about this region, which I did. That became the book, The Cygnus Mystery, that came out in 2006, 2 years later. But whilst I was there, I was presented for my work on the culture and history of this region with this special plaque, which is clearly in the shape of a monolith. And actually, it's in the shape of one of the T-shaped stones, as broken, found at Navali Chori on the north side of Şanlıurfa province. And it's, it just says here, the culture festival, 28th of May to 6th of June 2004. This was presented to me on stage by the mayor. Now, that was in acknowledgement to the work that I had done, the achievements in this book here. Now that's all being undone by the people that are there today. Is this good? You tell me.
So you heard that Andrew Collins banned from Göbekli Tepe just because the government and the archaeologists say that he is too real. I mean, you know what else is too real? This Brazilian farmer story may be the first in the world to be killed by a UFO. According to this book, a farmer has been the first person in the world to be killed by a UFO. Luis Barossa Fernandes, a Brazilian, died mysteriously after claiming he was attacked by small extraterrestrials that came out of a strange disk. Philip Manto, a British investigator, believes that the incident that led to the death of Luis Barossa Fernandes could be the first case of a UFO and alien killing a person. According to the book, Luis said he heard a buzzing sound and spotted an unidentified object in the sky. He claimed that the object was about 30 meters from him when it hit the ground. He said that two small alien creatures came from it, that the creatures attacked him and his donkey, causing them to be paralyzed. He woke up that he found he was several meters away from the object. He had also burn marks on his face. After finding the farmer, a cowboy took him to his wife, who then called the doctors. They reportedly could not diagnose his strange condition. After hearing the farmer's story, Dr. Antonio Moreira Magales, a psychiatrist, concluded that the incident was very serious. Although he didn't believe in flying saucers at the time, he admitted that something happened to the farmer. Following the incident in 1973, the doctor ordered a tranquilizer and an anti-allergy drug for the farmer. So, you know what's interesting about this? It's around the same time that like J. Allen Hynek was doing his UFO studies. Carl Sagan was writing his ancient alien hypothesis, Bigfoot study. So there's like right then in the early 1970s, the paranormal world was completely wide open and we were seeing it. The government was after it. And I'm sure that this wasn't the only dude like hurt from it, but this is probably the only recorded case, uh, which is interesting. So the book, right here, we're gonna go ahead and show it live. UFO Contacts in Brazil, paperback by Thiago Luiz Tichetti. So it's right here. Brazil is one of the like biggest countries for UFO activity. So yeah, this is a cool book. I'm storing this for later. Next up, lab grown meat gets a FDA stamp of approval. A lab grown meat startup. Oh my god. Like, man, do we really want to get into this? Like, this is fake. Ooh, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. Once we start doing this stuff, I mean, they're gonna start making cultivated meats, including beef, chicken, salmon, tuna. Oh man, guys, and you want to eat lab made chicken? It's not even a real chicken. It's not real beef. That's not, man. I mean, it is, but it isn't. I don't. I'm cool. It says cultivated meat is different from plant-based meat because it contains real animal cells and theoretically indistinguishable from real meat itself. Cells are initially isolated from an animal and developed into cell, then frozen. Small samples from these cell lines can be transferred into bioreactors, usually large steel tanks where the cells are fed grown media containing the nutrients that cells need to divide. Once the cells have grown and differentiated into the correct kind of tissue, they can be harvested and used in cultivated meat products. That's not cool. Continuing on. From Zero Hedge, were U.S. citizens tracked via secret COVID decree violation scores? Yeah. The data collected used by PredictWise to help Democrats target over 350,000 COVID concerned Republicans with campaign ads related to virus prevention measures. PredictWise is a real program. PredictWise understood that there are potential pockets of voters to target the COVID-19 messaging and turned high-dimensional data covering over 100 million Americans into measures of adherence to COVID-19 restrictions during deep lockdown. This information was used to help identify 40,000 persuasion targets for Senate candidate Mark Kelly, who subsequently elected. As we highlighted through the COVID lockdowns, chilling components of the surveillance grid were weaponized against ordinary people. At one point, a senior government minister in Australia refused to rule out citizens being forced to wear electronic ankle bracelets, even if they're fully vaccinated. Holy fuck. Conservative MP Jeremy Hunt, who was recently promoted to become Chancellor of Executive, called for the government to use GPS tracking technology to ensure Brits were complying with COVID quarantine. So, yeah, this they're using all of our social media algorithms to say COVID violators. So that's what that PredictWise had came to, that algorithm. And AI is cool, but AI can also be used as a fool, and that's definitely a way. Now, next up, we got this RT article I found interesting. Norway's Princess Martha Louise has abandoned her patrons to marry an African American guru from Hollywood. Princess abandons royal duties over a relationship with shaman. A self-proclaimed shaman to the stars who sells magical outlets. Durek Verret is marrying Martha Louise. The royal court said Martha Louise would no longer use the title of princess or refer to the royal family in her commercial ventures on social media, while the other members of the family would take over patronage of the organizations he sponsored. Martha Louise is no stranger to controversy, having lost her Royal Highness title in 2002 when she claimed she could speak to angels and chose to work as a clairvoyant. Whoa, I would like to get in contact with these guys. So, this Derek Verret is a so-called sixth-generation shaman who charges $1,500 for virtual consultation. Has worked with Gwyneth Paltrow, Antonio Banderas. In his book, Spirit Hacking, he claimed that the human mind can cure cancer and uses his website to sell spirit optimizer medallions that adjust imbalances in frequency relationships that bring you peace, that protect the user from evil eyes, spells, and curses and magic meant to harm you. Wow. Interesting. So, Martha Louise and Derek Verret, two fascinating people. One of them is the clairvoyant who can speak to angels, and the other is a sixth-generation shaman. Hey, cheers. That's fascinating. What else is there to say? I mean, I wish I had a wife or a girlfriend who was interested in this type of stuff. I'm just gonna say that, and I'm gonna put that out in the universe. And the law of manifestation. I hope I manifest that. I really do. I'm not a shaman, but I really do want a woman or a wife who understands these aspects and who works for these aspects, or at least wants to, or at least it's cool to talk about this stuff. Because look at it, man, this is awesome. Verret charges $1,500 per virtual consultation. Man, that dude probably makes bank. And I want to. I mean, that's why I kind of started the podcast. Actually, guys, this is a good time to mention. Hey, I'm doing a $30 a month program. Yeah, for fitness and health, dieting, and all that. If you guys want to go ahead and get in shape, you guys want to see a change in your life, you just want to feel more energy, for $30 a month, you can go ahead and contact me. I'll put you on a routine. I'll set you up with some dieting, set you up with some tips, just keep you guided as an instructor. And honestly, man, you'll definitely see a change. See the change, you gotta be the change. For $30 a month, man, hit me up. I work from home. This year I've applied to 100 different jobs. Got one call. So fuck this government here in Washington State. I'm pretty much like shadow banned, targeted, blacklisted. But that's a whole nother story. Anyways, continuing on. We're at the war zone right here. Ex-Marine Corps Harrier pilot who worked in China has been arrested. The arrest comes shortly after revelation that retired Western fighter pilots were working directly with China's air arms in concerning ways. So they were making weapons. Yeah. This isn't the first, though. We know that other scientists have been doing this. Yeah, like this is nothing new. Let's go ahead and see if they say exactly what he was making. I'm sure that what it is just fighter pilot work and weaponry work. And Right here, described as a comprehensive aviation consultancy company with a focus of fast-growing and dynamic Chinese aviation. He was working for, and he was helping them build planes and shit through our military technology. So he was a senior tactical instructor. Man, he was rising a rank in major. He spent time as a Harrier exchange pilot with the Spanish Navy and eventually accumulated several hundred carrier landings on 7 different aircraft carriers. So this dude has training. And he has information. He knows where things are. Oh, man. Right here, look, it says this confirmed. Duggan's arrest came the same week the UK Ministry of Defense confirmed that dozens of British former frontline military pilots had been hired to help Beijing develop its tactics and technological expertise. Yeah, China's trying to recruit a lot of people and offering them money, and it's pretty much fucking up America and other countries. Interesting. Continuing on to show you that proof, scientists at America's top nuclear labs were recruited by China to design missiles and drone. Report says China is playing a game that we are not prepared for, and we need to really begin to mobilize. So yeah, I read this article earlier this year. This actually came out like last month though. At least 154 scientists who worked in the government response at the U.S. foremost national security laboratory over the last 2 decades have been recruited to do scientific work in China. So China is offering our guys millions and billions of dollars to go ahead and do research into technologies that is then being used against America. So there's that. Do you know about this? Wild experiments are trying to bounce radio signals off the moon and Jupiter. This is an article from Gizmodo. The HARP facility in Alaska completed a 10-day campaign of ambitious science. The HARP High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program kicked off 10-day research. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, tell a little bit about this, but I'm going to mention something. So they're talking about bouncing the rays off the moon and Jupiter. And, most people are like, yeah, cool. But, there's another story from about like 10, 20 years ago. Actually, pretty recent. There was another review about how Gary McKinnon hacked into NASA. And this is a real story. This dude was sentenced to prison by the government. So he is actually in prison. Whatever. This dude is real. You can go ahead and research it yourself. Gary McKinnon, accused of committing the biggest military computer hack of all time. If extradited to the U.S., he faces 7 years in jail. Well, maybe he's not in prison yet. Sorry, but anyways, he hacked into NASA, right? So this dude hacked into NASA, and the Pentagon and the U.S. Department of Justice is seeking to fully extradite this dude. But what he found on NASA and the Pentagon's network was a series of UFO cover-ups and off-world bases, off-world technologies, off-world entities, off-world officers. So this is the U.S. government saying that a British dude, and putting a arrest warrant on this dude for saying and hacking the American government, that non-terrestrial officers and off-world bases exist. So when we see this shit right here, we got to remember that like there's fucking bases out here, guys. And speaking of all, like everybody, and there's things already there. They're just like, they're like, we're going to Mars. Well, people already there at Mars. Now we're just doing it publicly. Elon Musk and stuff. And they're, going to the moon. Well, people already there at the moon, but now we're just doing it publicly. And so let's just say wild experiments are trying to bounce radio signals off the moon and Jupiter. Well, let's just say that this, they prove that they can start bouncing radio signals. Well, you know what that will bring, then that will show the public, oh well, we can put internet and stuff out there. Oh, let's put internet and stuff and things, and like, start pushing for the technology. Well, no, it's like it's been there, but we got to show to the public that it can be done, because there's always some people are thinking like, well, radio waves in space, won't exist. It's like dark matter and shit, fizzle, or like, some people don't really think about the full spectrum of what our reality can do. So anyways, so this shit right here, when they're bouncing this radio waves, I believe that there's already bases there, and so that they're trying to show that we're getting, that we have the capability of like sending technology like the internet satellite or something, maybe, back and forth between these two. And over the next 5 to 10 years, they're like, all right, cool, let's make a bigger push. I mean, like we've already seen us get sent messages. We've been sent messages from outside through like different radio waves of extraterrestrial entities. When Carl Sagan, in the 70s or 80s, he sent a gold plate with a lot of sounds of the nature and the DNA structure of humankind, up to space, up to the moon. And a couple years or decades later, we on Earth got back a message in the same pattern, but an alien DNA and alien like writing, as a crop circle. So a very fascinating story, just interesting. So we can get radio waves. I mean, sorry, that Carl Sagan thing was. I should have also mentioned that around the same time, we were doing radio signaling, and we got back a message. So I mean, we know things are out there. We know that there's other entities. Like legitimately, we know that we're trying to show communication exists, but for some reason, fucking the scientists in mainstream through NASA and the government want to just slow play it. They're like, yes, let's like take the longest route possible from A to B. They're going all the way backwards from Z, X, Y, all the way to C again. Yeah. This is interesting, kind of, like the technology is getting powerful, I guess, right? Our technology, our public technology. So maybe that's one of the things that we can, highlight off this. But in my own speculation, I think that there's already bases out there for them to be specifically, like they probably already have a radio base there that is receiving the radio signal on the moon and then directly shooting it back, like at real time. And in real time, you guys heard about that I mean, like, what's been going on? So 2 weeks ago, crypto whiz Nikolai Mushikin claims to have discovered an intelligence agency blackmail ring based out of the Caribbean. He predicts he'll be killed and turns up dead that day. Now FTX, based out of the Bahamas. FTX, who also sponsored the shutdown of ivermectin, who also sponsored the war in Ukraine, who also was a huge Democratic funder, is now bankrupt and can't afford for billions in funds, who also built a back door that allowed them to siphon funds and transfer money without triggering attention. You know, at least $1 billion of client funds are missing from FTX. He was trying to flee the Bahamas, and recently I think he got arrested. Some crazy shit, huh? Honestly, man, what are we doing in this world as a collective? Are we uniting our family and friends, helping them see better, live better, eat better, stay out of trouble, all that, man? Because shit's getting weird. All we got is our family and friends. If we don't got them, then we don't got shit. I got my dog, but I mean, we got our dogs too, and our cats, and our animals, our pets, our things. But these outside politicians. I mean, like the politics kind of matters, but like we shouldn't be putting money in these dudes' pockets. Crypto's a little bit of a fucking scam. Like, man, so 10 years, like, all right, this is gonna be fucked up to say. 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to buy a Bitcoin. I was looking at it. Like, me and my friends, we bought one, but I had the opportunity to buy more, and I just didn't. Worst decision of my life. One of them. But now I'm looking at it, and like it's a really rigged market, and it's just like the same players, and I'm looking at the pandemic, and there's a lot of rigged players, and it's probably just best to quit trying to put the money in the pocket of the rigged players and put the money in the pocket of the people who are around you, and right with you, right for you, speaking a message of love and not a message of hate. So anyways, U.S. says Russia ultimately responsible for Poland missile incident. Moscow was to blame for the projectile landing in Poland, even though it was likely fired by Ukraine. Yeah, that's just like seeing someone kick another person and then just blame it on someone else. That was like punching the first person, and then the second person kicked the third person, and then yeah, you know what I mean? It just doesn't, whatever. These guys are just little pansies. Hey, and to finish today off, I got a little story for you. You know what? How about I leave it for tomorrow? You guys go ahead, have a wonderful night. God bless. I'm gonna go ahead and play this outro for y'all. Peace.
Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking Thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper. Never getting caught up in the loop. Got up out it cause I found the truth. Woke up to a beauty of the day. The sun is shining so I'm finna stay. Sitting soaking up all of the rays. Till I feel it surging through my brain like some booger sugar. Did a lot of cane. Experimented with it, couldn't name all the times I did it. Feeling like a fade. Yeah, I'm really glad that I let it go. Cause I gotta be prepped for the time when the plane ride is a new norm. So I know I'm gonna stay high blaze on the ganja. Feeling like I make my music go to another level while I take off. I can't ever stop this. Fell in love with it, fit like a glove. So I'm never ever done with it. So now I'm about to rip another beat. Ayy, one day I'll make $1 million in a week. Yeah, shooting for the top spot. Feel like I'm a hot shot. Like I really got a chance with it. I will not flop. Somebody gonna make a dance when I pop off. Gonna have all the bitches taking all the tops off. I've been feeling like I'm really gonna kill it for the rest of my life. So I've been staying focused. In my soul, I've been feeling like $1 million. So I know that everything is really getting closer. Yeah, no posers. Only been hanging with the ones I've chosen. Only all the people that are living in the right way. Cause they spending every day growing. Yeah, no whole shit coming in my life and then leaving in a moment. That's the shit I'll never let into my life again. Cause lately I've been feeling like I'm golden. Never showboat, I just showcase on my music that I made this far. Always knew that I could be the one that would get this far. Now I'm right here looking in my mirror, trying to figure out if there's any more fear. Cause I'm getting rid of it all, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting rid of it all. Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it. Thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught.